Oh my God. And I've seen the feet of the dogs that live on a pure wire floor. We just
George, yeah.
We just
I've
recently rescued a whole bunch of them that all still today in 2025 were on pure wire floors. There was no solid floors in those kennels where we pulled these dogs
Yeah,
from.
it's terrible.
And their feet are
permanently messed up.
Permanently disfigured. Yeah. They can't even walk right.
Oh my dog. Dog. Oh my dog.
Oh my dog, hey.
Oh my dog, hello.
We are back.
Back again.
And we have a guest that we have been waiting for, very excited.
I am so jazzed. I have been counting down the days and just thinking of all the things that I want to ask. And I know I'm not going to be able to get to all of it. But today we have here
Preston Moore.
He is the Iowa State Director. I'm going to just read your title from your email.
That's perfect.
Iowa State Director, State Affairs, Humane Society of the United States. That is a very long title, sir.
Yes. And
did it change?
It's also outdated.
Oh.
So at some point from the first time I emailed with you and February of last year, we actually changed our organization's name. So we are now known as Humane World for Animals.
Okay.
And it's actually probably good to point out for people. Because,
yes, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Humane Society of the United States has been around, for decades. Mm-hmm. And we've had multiple kind of sister organizations and organizations that are in our family of organizations that had different names. And so here in the U.S., most people knew us as the Humane Society of the United States. They also probably knew Humane Society International. They may have known Humane Society International Australia. We had all of these different offices all around the world sort of operating together. But now, not only have we changed our name, we've really changed the way that we're operating. We have a full one-team mentality. We have experts working on different types of animal policy, different subject matters around the world, really working together to address each of these issues in as systemic of a way as possible.
Wow.
So kind of a new name, but still doing, I think, the same great work that we've been doing since I've been in this role for about 8 years.
I mean, when I think about this, I think, at a state level, like you and I mean, obviously Oh My Dog branches out to other states and other shelters in the United States, and we all work together. But to think about this organization at the United States level, and then that's overwhelming. And then to think about it on a world level, I'm like, oh my gosh. How do you guys keep all of this stuff straight?
Oh my gosh. Well, obviously, Preston is wildly organized because he brought us a bulleted list printed out, double-sided. And had we actually taken one glance at it, we would have seen that it wasn't the HSUS anymore, but now Humane World for Animals, which is amazing. And I can't wait to dive into that even more. But okay. So how did you land here? Why are you doing this? Why do you continue to do it?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is sort of the origin story part of the episode. So we'll go maybe 20 years back, and we'll kind of fast forward through some of this and go faster through parts than others. Maybe some of it will be a little bit slower. But when I was a young person, I remember being in elementary school, and one of my neighbors was giving away their little beagle. They were moving to a new town, and they couldn't take their dog, and I brought this little beagle home and said, "Mom, can I keep this dog?" I was allowed to keep this dog, and that dog lived until I was in college, literally my first puppy as a kid.
Yeah.
And at the time that happened, I was reading a book that I think a lot of people read in elementary school called Shiloh.
Yes.
Oh my God. I read it once. I can never read it again.
No, never again.
It breaks your heart even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I remember that story, and I remember very vividly this little boy hiding cheese and lunch meat in a tin in a creek, and he sunk it in the creek to keep it cool so this dog wouldn't have rotten food. That's amazing. I think kids are really innocent, and I have a daughter now, and I'm seeing that innocence kind of play out. But, that really stuck with me from a very early age. Fast forward maybe a decade later, I was in high school, and my next door neighbor had a pretty serious animal neglect case on her property.
What generation are you? Are you Gen X, Millennial?
I think I'm technically Millennial, but in Iowa, I feel like we're 10 years behind. And so, I'm 38.
Okay.
Oh,
But I-
we're
all
all
the
the
same.
same age.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I grew
Beautiful.
up in small town
I don't know
Iowa,
about
and
Tanner.
so I
Is
feel
he
like
much older?
No, I turned 38 this
yeah.
year.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're younger than me? Shut up. Are you for real?
Yeah, I was born
I'm
in
the
88.
oldest person in the room.
By
Right,
a
were you
year.
born in 87?
This has
Seven.
happened.
I was
Yeah.
88.
This has happened more times than the
Well,
last.
you don't look it, and that's all that matters.
That's true.
There you go.
All right, that's the intro to the
Oh
podcast.
my gosh.
Tanner's just trying to
just
secure
like you
another
more and more
decade of,
every
of
week.
doing this.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's
No,
just to
you're
give
good.
other people context
Yeah.
of where you're coming from.
Okay.
But
I think we all
I
grew
feel
up
like
that
in
way.
Iowa we're all kind of like 10 years behind, and so
Oh yeah.
I'm not as hip and cool as the coastal people, but a millennial. But in high school, my neighbor had a really bad neglect case, and I remember the sheriff deputies being there and the Muscatine Humane Societies who came up. They were from about an hour away, but I think they were the nearest shelter. Almost nothing happened to this person. You know, there were animals that were deceased. I remember.
Weird. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, right. I remember there being a bulldog in particular that had eaten a washcloth because they didn't have access to food, and that like broke my heart as a kid. But I think, you know, as a young person, you don't really know what to do. You don't know how to get plugged in. You don't know how to advocate for change that you want to see. So that all just kind of sat in the back of my head and in my heart for a long time. Volunteered a little bit with animal shelters and stuff in college. Graduated college and worked in marketing, in tourism marketing, specifically in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area. Okay. And in 2018, there was a job posting for development, fundraising, and community outreach and marketing at my local Humane Society. And I applied and I hounded those people, you know, pun
Like
intended.
a beagle.
Pun intended, literally. And I had to have this job. I had to use the skills that I had built and the little bit of working knowledge I had about communications and fundraising. I had to do it for a cause I cared about. And I'm so thrilled they let me do that job. They took a chance on me, and I think that we did a lot of really cool things. We launched some good programs like vaccine clinics and the pet food bank there. But the big part of, I think, the origin story was that in February of 2018, we got a call from the Benton County Sheriff's Department. And fast forwarding and making this a lot shorter story than it could be, there were 800 to 900 guinea pigs and rabbits and birds and chinchillas, a lot of small exotic pets, in a small basement. And then there were some
800.
Mhm.
Like we were talking last week.
Like a guinea pig. I mean, if you think like a potato, like a potato
like a
size.
big potato.
So imagine 800 russet potatoes in a basement.
But those potatoes poop.
I mean, they move. Yeah, and they move and they squeal and they.
and they breed
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't get
quickly.
to 800 in no time.
quickly.
Oh
And
my
so-
gosh.
One thing that case taught me was that rabbits, when they're hungry enough, will eat each other.
Oh,
And so it was just horrific, you guys. And this case really broke my heart. It took months and months for it to conclude. And ultimately, the judge in this case was going to award custody of, I think, 12 of these animals back to the family. He felt bad for the kids.
oh my
Oh,
God!
jeez.
Get out of
They
here!
did like 4-H and like guinea pig shows.
So they picked the guinea pigs that like had 4 legs.
They
you know,
pick-
because
they
the
wanted
rest
to
of them
pick-
had to be all inbred.
They wanted to pick the animals that had the highest value.
Oh my god.
There were a couple of rabbits.
to continue the cycle
Yeah,
again.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why.
There were a couple of rabbits that were a breed called Czech Frosty rabbits, and they're white. They're beautiful. They look like they're wearing mascara. It's a relatively new breed of rabbits in the United States, and those people wanted those rabbits back badly.
Look her up, Tanner. I want to see what this looks like.
Czech Frosty
rabbit.
bunny. Yeah, they're real cute.
I think you can.
Like
Oh,
the Czech,
no.
like the Czech Republic.
Bunny.
Like
There's no way that that's going to get you anywhere. Bunny, rabbit, a rabbit.
Oh, what did I say? Money.
I don't know why you wrote money.
Bunny.
Probably because I was.
There you
Oh,
go.
I wasn't far off
No.
on check.
No, they're
I
real
was thinking
cute.
like check like a.
No,
like a
I was thinking
money.
This
check.
is what I was thinking, like Czechoslovakia.
And that's why I
The
spelled
Czech
check
Republic.
like they would spell check.
Right.
They look like a little Netherland dwarf, but like with beautiful fur. Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
Yes.
Wow.
Lovely.
So the judge was going to give some of them back, and the shelter and our supporters really didn't want that. I mean, this was a story that got national
You know,
attention.
when judges do that shit, I would love for the judge to go out
Yeah.
and physically pick out the ones and physically take them back to that location
Right.
and physically return them and
And
see
then check
and,
on them in a year.
and see the yes and see the facilities and then yes, follow up in 6 months. So
my God.
because it's very easy to make these sorts of decisions when you're standing up on a podium. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Yeah.
and I get it. Like in Iowa, animals are property, and these animals are being raised in part for like agriculture shows.
Yeah.
And so, like, I understand, but the amount of neglect was so severe, we couldn't stand it. And so we knew that this family was very unlikely to be able to pay any of the money they were going to owe the city. The city had a contract with our shelter, and they had racked up just from the cost of caring for these animals for a couple of days, something like $80,000. Just it's a huge number.
Well, it was 900 animals or
Yep.
whatever. Oh
and
my
it's staff
God.
time, and it was around the clock care for weeks and
Just
weeks.
think about the bedding. I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
bedding alone.
Obscene.
Yeah.
And so we waived the fee to the city. Then the city waived the fee in exchange for them signing custody of them all over. They got, I think, 3 counts of animal neglect.
What?
For that case, 3 or 4. And
This is so aggravating.
it upset me on such a deep, visceral level that I went to my boss at the time and our board of directors, and I said, you got to let me go to Des Moines and talk to our lawmakers about this story. I had grown up in Iowa, like, you guys here. I had been told my whole life our animal laws just suck. They're terrible. It just is what it is. Sorry. Too bad.
Right.
And then you experienced it
And I experienced that case
like on a major level.
on a major level. And like, this is a case that would have bankrupted that city if we had collected on it,
Right.
which
Right.
was our right. We
Right.
had the expense. And so I had to change it. And it just so happened to be that at that time, the Humane Society of the United States, now Humane World for Animals, was hiring for my position. And my position, very simply, is to work on policy. I go and I talk to members of the legislature. I talk to our city council members. I talk to county board members. But maybe more importantly, and I think definitely more importantly, is connecting with just advocates around the state and people that are in the animal industries, people that operate shelters, people who adopt animals, people who just care about animals, and making sure that they know how to weigh in, when they can weigh in, what opportunities are there. So if there's like state commission meetings, that sort of thing, and there's a legitimate opportunity to improve things, I make sure that they know about it so that we can all elevate those stories and make sure that policy, when it's put into place, is actually impactful and meaningful and not just,
Yeah.
something cute on top.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So-
and how long have you been doing this role?
So I've been in this role since May of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty much full time, even during the COVID times, running around the state, talking to as many people as I can. The position, I think, has changed because it has to every single year, depending on what the state needs. So there were some years where I was running around just doing big community forums, like kind of campaign style events, talking to people, come and tell us, me and your elected officials, what animal issues are you facing? What are you seeing? Now it's really changed quite a bit, and I'm spending just a ton of time in the actual state capitol talking to legislators and going and meeting with them in their districts because we did those first steps.
Yes.
Elected officials have heard from their constituents. They've heard from us. They've heard from the organizations that are taking care of animals how important these issues are. So it's just opened that door in a way that I think the door wasn't open 10 years ago.
And there are so many issues. I mean, from animal rights all the way to, as we spoke earlier tonight while we were prepping, fundraising efforts and how those are limited and where they're limited. This is a massive undertaking. It's just so widespread. There's such a large umbrella to cover here. I have a couple questions real quick for our listeners just to clarify kind of the differences between this and that. So what is the difference between the Humane Society or Humane World for Animals now versus a city shelter versus a rescue like Oh My Dog?
Yeah, great question. So I could talk about this topic specifically just with Iowa history for probably 4 hours. I'm not going to do that.
We might have to split this podcast up, Tanner.
But
Call your wife. It's going to be a minute.
the long and short of it is that in the 1800s, here in Iowa, especially around the 1880s, 1890s, there were groups of people, and this happened around the country. It's just not just Iowa, but for Iowa here, 1800s, 1890s, groups of people got together and said, we want the world to be more humane. To them, that meant treating animals and women and children with just like a shred of decency. They got together in people's houses, in their parlors, at local dance halls, whatever, and they just talked about these issues. And they said, what can we do to make the world kinder? Those groups, humane societies, is what started most of what we know now today as your local shelters, your local humane societies. They weren't animal shelters back in the day. They were a collective of people who cared about people, women, and children. Over time, those missions really splintered, and we saw groups form to help animals and then groups to help women and children that needed assistance. And now they're a lot more generalized. It's just people who need help and animals that need help. The big difference is that those shelters, while they were forming and calling themselves humane societies, they were doing a lot of the same things that my organization does now today. So our organization is primarily an advocacy organization. However, we do operate emergency animal care and removal if we're requested to by local law enforcement, that sort of thing, or if there's natural disasters, we help with that. We operate a permanent shelter in Maryland on the East Coast so that we can kind of facilitate and have a place to funnel those animals into if they need to be held long term. But we also operate pop-up shelters if we have cruelty cases around the country.
Okay.
But we are not your local humane society shelter.
Right.
It's
Okay,
different.
so like for me, the reason I asked this question is I'm Boone County. She's Polk County. So there's the Boone Area Humane Society, which is located in Boone County.
Yep. Yep. And
Is that any way associated with?
only in that they share a mission to want to help animals.
Okay. So they're not like one doesn't report to the other.
No
or
affiliation.
No affiliation.
Nope, no affiliation.
Okay.
The-
That's great. That's
Yeah, good to
that's
know.
where I was like,
Yeah.
how does this all work? And then, of course, there's no affiliation. I mean, we obviously share the same thoughts and concepts, but there's no affiliation between rescues like Oh My Dog Rescue and.
Right.
I have to keep looking at your shirt.
Yeah,
Humane World
Humane
for
World.
Animals. I
So-
just want to call it the Humane Society.
The really good way, I think, to boil it down is that all of us that care about these things, we want to see a more humane world. We want to see a more humane society. All these different organizations operate a little bit differently, but we're all going toward that same goal. It's just kind of a micro versus macro scale version of it. And so, your local shelter, your local rescue are most often boots on the ground, dealing with these issues head on. In my position, especially here in Iowa, I try to elevate all of those conversations and elevate the issues that you all are dealing with so the decision makers hear about it.
to a policy level.
Yep. And then I also make sure that you all are aware so
Yeah.
you can weigh in, because otherwise the policymakers really don't have a chance to hear from you all.
Right.
You're too busy to go to the State House all the time.
I'll
Or
go there
to
every day
review
if
all
you
the
want me
bills.
to.
Yeah.
Well, we talk
I'll
about this.
stand on their doorstep and
Oh man, we talk
with
about this
my
a lot
megaphone.
though, because you're right. We are looking at this in such right now, what needs to be taken care of right
Today.
now, today. Like, what is the emergent situation? Like, we may get called into a hoarding case, and so we are going in and like physically taking these animals out. But then, as a larger picture and a larger conversation, which we honestly don't have time for, is how do we make this change on a larger level so that this shit stops happening?
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
With hoarding cases and big neglect cases, especially, you guys get called in if law enforcement can't handle it. Well, obviously they can't handle it. They don't have kennel spaces for 80 animals, so they have to rely on partners like you. At the same time, you all can't file criminal charges, and you can't take an animal.
so frustrating.
You can't take an animal unless law enforcement gives it to you, and so
Right.
it has to be a partnership. That's how most communities operate around the state. But
Well, also there's the whole feeling of, what do I want to say? Like, hey, we're coming in, we're responding, we are using our resources, we're taking our time to do all of this. We want justice. We
Yes.
want whoever did this horrific thing that we are now cleaning up and taking care of to pay. I mean, it's not about vengeance, but like, you can't just, because then they just turn around, and we've seen it time and time again. They just turn around and do it all over again.
Yeah.
Like, it has to stop somewhere, and we can't.
And if there's no laws to enforce that, like that are,
I mean, other than vigilante bullshit, which we can't condone. It's
No.
like it's very frustrating. And also to clarify, a clarifying question between companion animals and like hog
Livestock.
confinements and things like that. Do you deal with both, or just companion animals, or?
So my organization deals with animals of all kinds.
Okay.
And so what's really interesting about Iowa in particular, we're a huge agriculture state. We do deal with farm animal issues, and we don't always agree with the stakeholders here in Iowa, but there are plenty of stakeholders in Iowa who do agree with us on agriculture issues. The same can be said for wildlife. We have a huge supporter base in the state who care very deeply about the welfare of wildlife. Most people in Iowa assume that everybody in the state hunts.
Right.
It's actually less than 7% of the state population who hunts, fishes, or traps. I'm not opposed to hunting. I grew up hunting. I'm a big gun guy. I like to go shooting. I would love to challenge any of you in trap shooting. I do pretty well.
I'm not sure you want to do that.
I would do it.
You could challenge me. I would lose.
But the thing is that there are issues within, shooting sports and hunting that people do agree on. For example, a big issue right now that I'm engaging with the State House is about lead ammunition. But it's not in a bill about lead ammunition. There's a bill on the table about deer depredation licenses for farmers so that they can take care of deer if they're eating their crops. Fine, no issues with that. The issue, however, is the bill is written to allow open composting of those deer after they've been shot.
Oh.
And I hear from wildlife rehabbers every week about poisoned bald eagles with
I've
lead
been
poisoning.
watching all the videos about this. Like, it's a really big problem. Yeah.
And so a way we weigh in on that, for example, is we go to the legislature and say, maybe we don't do open air composting if they're going to use lead ammunition, or just give them some guidance so that it's not poisoning the environment and there's not an unintended.
I don't know any avid hunter that would be in support of lead poisoning a bald eagle.
I don't know any hunter who would want
there
to
is a
hurt an animal they
demographic
weren't
there.
targeting.
There's already rules and regulation in place for waterfowl.
Yeah,
I mean, hunters already care enough that
yeah, they sure do.
it's more expensive to hunt waterfowl because you can't use lead shot.
Right.
Right.
There is a demographic there, and it's not judgmental, but I'm just telling you, any 90% of hunters fall into a certain demographic that is not going to be on board with lead poisoning bald eagles.
No.
So then it really comes down to education.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, that's, I think, just a really good example of why I love my job, because people assume I'm coming to the table and I'm going to say, well, we oppose this because we don't want anyone to hunt. And that's not what we're talking about. In this instance specifically, we don't want there to be animals that are harmed that aren't the target.
Right.
And like I said, I hear from these poor wildlife rehabbers. I know you guys did some raccoon rehab for a little bit, I think. One of you.
And squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels.
Raccoons and squirrels.
And you don't want animals to be harmed.
No.
You just don't. And I think that most sportsmen, hunters, trappers, whatever, I think they think the same thing.
Absolutely.
I think there's just often a knee-jerk reaction that people assume that, everyone's anti everything else that doesn't align perfectly, and that's just not the case.
All right. One last follow-up question, and then I'll let you go on to your agenda here.
It's a good one. I'm so excited about this agenda.
In relation to, let's say the ASPCA, how does the Humane Society work with or not work with the ASPCA? What's the relationship there?
Yeah, I mean, we talk
same as shelters and rescues. We're all on the same bridge, but we don't.
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, all these organizations have some shared goals, and we have differences of opinion on certain things. I mean, we look at groups like Best Friends. They have a very hard mandate for no-kill shelter status. That's not something that I work on as closely with shelters. Plenty of shelters work with both. And it's just all about providing shelters and rescues, or whomever the organization or advocate is, with the tools they need to kind of accomplish their mission. And in Iowa, I think I've seen firsthand for 8 years in this job, you have to be flexible in changing the way you go about your goals constantly. Because if you're just going at it and saying, this is the method and that's it, and this is how we're going to achieve our end goal, that's it, you're not going to get there. You have to be flexible.
I recently was talking with our legislature representative, and I wanted something very specific to happen, and I was only going to get half of that, maybe 2/3. And, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want to fight this. I want everything. I want 100%, blah, 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 blah. But I had to step back and say, you know what? Any progress is progress.
Yes.
And sometimes it takes a long time to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
And any step forward, whether it's a half a step or, 2 steps, whatever it is progress. So
Yeah.
knowing how Kara and I operate, being in your position would be incredibly frustrating because I'm like, I would just be up in front of everybody. Like, what is the problem? How are you guys not understanding this?
Yeah.
Like,
why is it so hard?
Is this like, are you dumb or like, no?
Yeah. I mean, look, when we
Very
get,
impatient.
Why don't you want this? But that leads me to the other question was, why is it so difficult to separate the policy between companion animals and things like hog confinements? We've talked about this, I think, on a very recent podcast. Like, why are there not 2 separate sets of rules?
You ready to have your mind blown?
I would love it.
There are.
Oh,
Sure don't feel like it.
Iowa law for companion animals and all other animals has been separate for decades. And so when people have been told this line of if we address something for the dogs, they'll come for the hogs later, number one, it's a lie.
okay.
It's not truthful. Our state law has been separate for decades. We have Iowa Code 717, which is mistreatment of livestock.
Okay.
And then we have Iowa Code 717B, which is mistreatment of animals other than livestock and certain wild animals.
Okay.
And it's written that way for a reason. A really good example here is that if you have a farm operation, and this has happened, and I'm not saying that this happens regularly, but it has happened in the last few years. If you have a farm operation with literally thousands of pigs in a barn, and they are starved or frozen to death, or they're not given food and water, and they die, you will be charged with 1 count of mistreatment of livestock.
Okay.
It's written in the code that way on purpose.
Which will probably be the least of your worries.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be the least of your worries.
No
I mean,
kidding.
it's a traffic infraction in terms of criminal penalties.
Wow.
Whereas for companion animals, you can be charged with every animal.
But is that true for like commercial breeders of dogs?
Yeah. How does that
Well,
play?
that's a really great question because in Iowa, for commercial establishments of any kind, so shelters, rescues, dog breeders, whatever, the code is written in a way that those folks, a licensee, can be charged if their conduct falls below the minimum standards of care in the Department of Ag's regulations and an injury or illness or death results. So yes,
to be
they
both.
can be charged. In fact, there was a dog boarding kennel in Muscatine, Iowa, I think 2 summers ago. They had a dog, I think it was a French bulldog, and they left it outside too long in the summer heat, and it died.
That'll do it.
Unfortunately for that dog boarding business, it was a sheriff's deputy's dog.
Oh shit.
And so, they
You done fluffed up.
they went pretty hard. And that person was charged and convicted, and they cannot be licensed as a commercial establishment now. So, yeah, it counts, but there's just kind of an extra layer of rules, for sure.
All
Okay,
right.
that helps clarify.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get back to the agenda. I have a lot of questions, so I'll just pop them in where it makes sense or not. You have here, where do you want to start?
So I love talking about all the things that are going on now and what people can do, I think, to help all of those
Yeah,
those
call to
different
action.
situations. But before we get there, I love history. I love to give people historical context. And so I think it would be great for your listeners to hear, from the last 5-6 years especially, what has changed in terms of animal policy, specifically with pets in the state, because there is a ton that happens every year, especially as you look year to year, that if you're not living it and you're not seeing it day to day, I think you're going to miss it. Really, really briefly, I'm going to touch on the period between 2007 and 2010. This was the last time in my lifetime that the state legislature here in Iowa really did good stuff in terms of policy from the mindset of most animal advocates. Okay. So during this time period, we saw a couple of things. One of them was we made it illegal in the state to have dangerous and exotic wildlife as pets. Tigers, bears, Tiger King stuff. You all saw the Netflix Tiger King.
Is that when they
rewatched
crushed my
that.
dreams about having a pet skunk, though? Is that when that happened?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Apologies for your skunk. I think you can still get a skunk.
No, I don't think you can.
You can get a raccoon, so I think
You can have a
shouldn't.
raccoon?
You shouldn't.
No,
but
I
you
know.
can.
I've had a raccoon, and
Well,
it was
you
legal
could
that I had
become
that
a
raccoon.
raccoon rehabber.
You say raccoon?
I say raccoon.
She says raccoon,
I
and
say
so I follow
raccoon.
her lead.
I
like
say
this.
raccoon.
I like this show.
I say rakin.
To the raccoon show.
A rakin.
But that was a good law. And the thing is that just a couple years ago, federal Congress passed a law like Iowa law from 2007, the Big Cat Public Safety Act. So we were a little ahead of the time, which was cool.
For once.
Yeah, right. In
Right.
2010, when Chet Culver was governor, we passed what was called the Puppy Mill Bill. And that created Chapter 162, which is the chapter of Iowa Code that you all, as a rescue, are subjected to.
Mm-hmm.
That's what created, the first legal requirements in the state for a more robust inspection program and who has to be licensed. And it's Chapter 162, if you want to look it up in Iowa Code. It governs everything. And it was a pretty decent little first entry into the puppy mill policy. But then basically everything stopped for a decade about.
So for listeners, just a quick Google search, Chapter 162 Iowa Code. It's 12 pages long. It talks about a commercial of animal shelters, research facilities, pet shops, boarding kennels, commercial kennels, dealer, commercial breeder, etc. Civil penalties, all of that. This is where you get all of your definitions of what does adequate feed mean? What does adequate water mean? What does animal shelter mean? Of course, we would love it to be a little more specific.
More robust.
Yeah, these are the bare minimum standards in
Right.
Iowa Code. This is kind of
But before that, there was
almost nothing.
Yeah.
Almost nothing.
Which this is not that long ago.
No.
I mean, this brings us back to a side quest to I distinctly remember the case of Palm
Yeah.
when we were with Fluffy Butts Rescue. Kara and I rescued with a group out of eastern Iowa called
yeah,
Fluffy
I know
Butts.
Fluffy Butts.
And Kara rescued this dog named Palm, and I would bring out the picture, but it's truly heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's
this dog
terrible.
had been neglected for a very long time, but and she died as a result. Like 2 days later.
Yeah.
This is during Ragbri of 2018.
Yeah.
And
Did you pick up a dog during Ragbri?
she wasn't on
I
Ragbri.
certainly
I
wasn't
was on
riding a
Ragbri.
bicycle.
Okay.
But she had adequate food.
Yeah.
She had adequate water.
Yep.
She had adequate shelter.
Yes.
According to the Iowa Code.
Yep.
This dog was still severely neglected to the point of death, and there was no path forward
Yeah.
reasonably to
the
convict
police-
these people.
The police agreed with us and filed charges, and we ended up going to a deposition.
Yeah.
And I sat across from the owner in a tiny room, and we talked about what I saw, and they didn't speak English, so they had to have like a translator, and essentially the whole thing got thrown out because they were it seems silly to say this, but I shouldn't have done this, but we sent the dog for necropsy and found that it was an older dog, and it had some cancer. And so
So you couldn't definitively
you couldn't say but it was like so severe.
This is where the difference between common sense and policy comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what year was that?
2018.
Okay. It's almost a perfect segue because that was the old code. And the old animal cruelty code had all kinds of nonsense in it. It said that if animals were provided with food, water, or shelter, that was fine. It didn't have to be a specific quantity. It didn't have to say it was fresh water. You could provide ice that was frozen water. It was fine. The old code also had some really bad stuff in there for more active abuse measures. So the animal abuse code actually gave permission of an animal owner to beat your own dog without consequences. You could beat it to death.
Oh my God.
Even more egregious, is you as the animal owner could give someone else permission to beat that animal, and that was fine. I don't think I know anyone in the state that thought that was okay.
Right.
You know, it's not, and I think that everyone agreed. So in 2020, the Iowa legislature passed a law and updated the Iowa code. And so now animal neglect is a lot better defined. You have to have actual clean water. You can't have frozen water. You have to provide veterinary care. You have to provide grooming. Not that you have to have a poodle cut on your dog, but you can't let your dog
be so matted that it's in pain.
be
It
so mad
requires
or like
sedation to
We've
be
had a lot
groomed.
of those. Yeah.
or skin conditions or something. And it's not even, oh, they have fleas, you're charged with a crime. That's not what it says. If you have a condition that is caused by lack of grooming and it develops into an injury or a serious injury or an illness, all terms that are defined in the code, it's a legal thing, then it's a crime. And I think that that's appropriate. Before, it wasn't like that in any
No,
way.
it wasn't. Yeah, that's crazy.
So that happened in 2020, not that long ago.
No.
Before that, it was legal to beat your own dog in Iowa. And I think that people just need to have that at top of mind. Like, this wasn't even a generation ago. It was a handful of years ago. So that was a really great big deal when it did happen. That same year, the Department of Ag updated its commercial establishment rules, which are separate than the actual code language of 162. So Chapter 162 in Iowa refers to these rules that the Department of Ag can develop and implement. Let's go a little bit further. So in 2020, they established these new rule set that had things like temperature control. It had things like you have to let your dogs outside sometimes. You have to have an exercise plan. You have to give them food more often. You have to clean up the waste. Really basic standards of care that I think most people would expect to happen in any shelter or boarding facility, whatever. We know that it doesn't happen everywhere, including in some bad puppy mills and in pet stores that sell puppy mill dogs. I highlight that rule because it was so important when it passed that half of the state's pet stores that sold puppies stopped.
Excellent.
They
Wow.
just didn't want to put a solid resting surface on the kennel floor for these dogs. They wanted to leave it as wire floors. They didn't want to invest in a piece of plywood from Menards. Fine.
Yeah.
If you can't meet that bare minimum
Then
standard,
you don't need to
shouldn't.
have it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I've seen the feet of the dogs
Ugh.
that live on a pure wire floor. We just
George, yeah.
we just
I've had
recently
dogs.
rescued a whole bunch of them
Yeah.
that all still today in 2025 were on pure wire floors. There was no solid floors in those kennels where we pulled these dogs
yeah,
from.
it's terrible.
And their feet are
Permanently messed up.
permanently disfigured. They can't even walk right.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
And
That's
so
wild.
when you look through the actual specific things that are required and you talk through how that really transpired with people and you tell them these stores just decided it's not worth it. I quit. Okay. So
Good riddance. I say.
what else was going on in the background that
Right.
could have potentially been so bad? They just don't want to follow these rules because surely it wasn't a piece of plywood, right? But maybe it was. So when that happened, people got really excited. I think, a lot of animal shelters in the state were maybe a little gun shy because it applied evenly. It applied to everyone. And there were some shelters and rescues that did not pass their first couple of inspections, but most shelters and rescues bounced back no problem. There were a handful of really bad, puppy mill style breeders that failed inspection after inspection after inspection. There were pet stores that failed inspection, even though they had 6 months to a year lead time.
Right.
Yeah,
When these inspections are coming because there's hardly any inspectors. So you've
Oh
got
my
some
God.
time.
yeah.
That
When they're
honestly-
coming.
That's
Yeah.
another.
So that was really
Question.
big. And in addition to making some really big impactful changes in the state, it got legislators and policymakers, I think, a little more excited about dealing with the animal issues. So really quick and very fast succession, we've had a number of really good proposals go through. In 2021, we had new regulation go into effect that I just saw, being promoted at a bar here in town. You can now allow dogs on your patio without doing literally mountains of paperwork if you're a
That's
bar
true.
or restaurant.
Yeah, that was a big deal. And
it just happened. It just happened because people spoke up about it. Think about how many people want to travel with their pets and go out to the bar with their pet. A lot of bars allowed it, and it was technically not allowed, at least not without a huge amount of paperwork. So we made that easier.
Well, our inspectors can barely cover what they got, so I highly doubt they're going to go after any of that without some sort of complaint.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, that's the Department of Inspection and Appeals that goes after restaurants. So they have...
They also have more than they can handle.
Yeah, they have way more than they can handle. There are a lot more restaurants than there are puppy mills, that's for sure. Then in 2022, we saw a really interesting bill filed and pass the legislature and get signed into law that requires taxpayer-funded animal research facilities in the state, and there are a number. It required them to create adoption programs so the dogs and cats could be adopted out instead of just euthanized. That was one of the first bills in the last few years around the country that really kind of kicked off this movement. Now we're seeing conversations at the federal level, with Secretary Kennedy talking about ending animal research federal government-wide. That bill here in Iowa helped start that conversation. In 2023, we saw the legislature update the animal sexual abuse law. It's disgusting. I'm not going to talk about it for very long, but there are more than a handful of bestiality cases in the state.
Oh, my God.
There was a case in Burlington where a guy literally kidnapped a dog in a white van. This happened.
God.
Crazy. Well, we actually know somebody, one of our fosters took in a dog that was from one of those cases, and you can't even talk about it.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
But the code before didn't have anything in there about, enticing a minor into the situation or exposing a minor. It didn't have anything in there about selling video content of this stuff. And that's where this movement has really gone, is online and the dark web. And we know that because just 2 summers ago, there was a guy in Des Moines, a lawyer, mind you, who was arrested by the feds for facilitating and paying money to some kid overseas, a minor, to torture monkeys while wearing baby clothes and sexually mutilate them. This is something that happens.
What is going on out there, man?
And so, that's disgusting, but, it happens. And so we had to make sure.
You have to talk about it enough to make sure it doesn't
It's
freaking happen.
you gotta cover every single freaking scenario possible.
Yeah.
At some point, I just feel like self-policing should come into play. I mean, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard something the other day that said something to the effect maybe we're not bullying people enough anymore. And I think there's some truth to that in some
We've
cases.
got too many bored people.
Yeah.
I don't want to have time to think of something as wild and estranged as any of these situations.
I remember being a kid, and my dad was friends with the sheriff.
Yeah.
And probably because he got called so often. I mean, at that point. And, something had happened, and Dad had kind of taken care of it in his own way. And, him and the sheriff had a conversation in the driveway, and he's like, yep, I would have done the same thing, and he left. It was nothing. It's we can solve our own problems.
Sometimes.
Well,
But we got to have all these freaking rules in place so we can end up not charging anybody for anything. Or,
Yeah.
they get like that Chihuahua, the Norwalk Chihuahuas,
yeah.
the Indianola Chihuahuas.
Oh my God.
They get what was it, a year of probation,
Right.
time served, and $100 fine.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's the stuff that's so infuriating for
Us.
rescues. Is
Yeah.
The enforcement of these laws, but the laws being created. Is
they're so
Yep.
great, and you're
so
doing
important.
such a great job.
And I appreciate it. If
Yeah.
I can give you a little bit of hope, a glimmer of hope there, because I recognize how frustrating it can be, especially in these individual cases. You see somebody not get the penalty you want them to. But since we passed that updated animal cruelty law in 2020, the arrest and conviction rate of animal crimes has gone up in the state by 66%. And
Good.
so it is happening. Not every case gets media, not every case gets news, not every case gets the penalty that folks want it to, but it is happening. And law enforcement is taking these issues more and more seriously every day.
That leads me to my next question. When these changes happen, when these bills pass and things get enacted into legislation, where does the educational pass off occur between that and law enforcement? So many times we've dealt with, I think specifically in Knoxville. What county is that?
That's Knoxville is Marion County, Iowa.
Marion County.
Marion
That's
County.
right. Yeah.
The Marion County Sheriff showed up to this situation, and it was pretty quickly obvious that he wasn't aware of his
ability to enforce the
law. Like, it wasn't that he was ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
He just...
Yeah. Well, he was ignorant.
He wasn't... Yes, you're right. He was ignorant.
He maybe just didn't have as much training as we would like him to have on this section of the code.
I think he would have felt more comfortable taking it to where it needed to go had he known that he had the backup to do so by policy. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So you have a very fair point that you're raising. And our organization has actually brought a couple of dozen law enforcement and prosecutor-specific trainings to Iowa to cover that exact issue. Mm-hmm. We've done them in person. We've done them virtually. We've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of law enforcement around the state.
And IDALS just put out mid last year, they put out that law enforcement packet.
They sure did. And
was that worth anything?
It's great.
Great.
It's wonderful. And the Department of Ag will provide law enforcement agencies with a veterinarian, which is needed in Iowa code to seize an animal and remove them from a situation. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening there, but the Department of Ag's not putting out a press release every time they go help with an animal raid.
Right.
It's just not what is in line with what they want to put out.
Sure.
You know, they want to celebrate agriculture products in the state, and you know, dog breeders are an agriculture product in their mind and in their licensing scheme. Mm-hmm. A lot of people would disagree that dogs should be viewed as an agriculture product, but it's their mission to promote products. That's why they exist.
You're breeding and selling animals, so I mean, what else do you call it?
And that's kind of the brief history, right, from the last few years. And so now I'm happy to dive in, if you'd like, to kind of the things that are happening this year, things that are kind of moving and shaking around the state, and how people can maybe get involved with that and impact that, unless you have more questions about any of the above.
I have another comment, but it doesn't really fit in here.
You can throw it out anytime.
It's your show.
Yeah, I'm a guest here.
It's my show. I'm an adult. I'm the oldest one in this room. So as a registered rescue with the Iowa Department of Ag, we are and have been cited for taking in a dog that did not come with any vaccination records for rabies. So
it was a stray.
It was a stray in Madrid. We have a very good relationship with the Madrid Police Department. The chief of police of Madrid calls when they have a dog that gets, like, they pick up a dog or somebody reports a dog and they go pick it up.
Yep.
And essentially what happened is I said, he didn't want to call the Humane Society because the dog was obviously owned. It was in good health. It had a good coat. It was clean, happy, healthy.
Baby.
It wasn't aggressive.
Just lost.
Lost, but not microchipped, no collar, no tags. I said, well, I'll just hold it for the day because the city of Madrid doesn't have a kennel to hold a dog like that. And so I said, well, I'll just hold it for the day. We'll post it out on social media. We'll get the word out. We did all the things. You know, I talked to a million people. Nobody came forward for this dog. Somebody dumped this dog.
Right.
Well, now it's 7:30 at night and nobody has spoken up for this dog. So now Oh My Dog Rescue is intaking it, and we're finding a foster. We're handing it off to the foster. You know, we're doing all of our intake things. We get cited because we don't have any vaccination records, and a rescue intaking a dog without rabies.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Correct.
Now,
do you want to know why?
Now, if a
yes,
wait.
Yeah, finish.
Now, if a shelter, we're a rescue. If a shelter takes the dog in, they have, within a quote reasonable amount of time, undefined, number of days.
Yes.
He's going to tell us the why.
Within a reasonable amount of time, they have to get the dog vaccinated.
Right.
Now, why wouldn't a rescue be allowed the same?
Like, why can't we wait till Monday morning to get this dog?
This is a Friday at 7 p.m. and you've got a dog that's lost and nobody's stepping up for it. What do you want me to, like?
I would love to tell you.
And also,
he's going to tell us.
I would love for you to tell me, but I just want to go on my rant in just a hot second. And also, by the way, only a DVM is legally able to administer the rabies vaccination in the state of Iowa.
Yes.
I think even nationally, honestly.
No.
And I could give it everything else. I can give it Bordetella. I can give it DHPP. I can give it a heartworm test. I can do anything to this dog except give it a rabies vaccination legally. Yeah. But I'm not, as a rescue, I'm not allowed a, quote, reasonable amount of time to get the dog vaccinated.
Yeah. So
please give me your bullshit reason why that is.
So here's the thing. It's not my reason. I didn't make this.
No, she's not talking to you.
Not you.
I know. So animal rescue as a term does not exist in Iowa law.
Right. We are dealers, right?
Yes. Iowa rescue is not a thing, legally speaking, except in administrative rules. And so when that law was passed in 2010, it includes animal shelter, it includes pound, it includes commercial dealer, it includes breeder, a couple other things, I think. Doesn't include rescue. And so the Department of Ag has included the idea of rescue and what it is in the administrative code, but it's just kind of this subcategory of dealer. You all don't
You all know how many rescues there are in Iowa,
There
right?
are a lot. And
like more than shelters.
There are a lot, and I would encourage the Department of Ag to change that because I think the rescue community wants it. Yeah.
And so the workaround for that, because I talked to the inspector about this, the workaround for that is for us to get a pound license.
Yes.
And what are the requirements to get a pound license?
You have to have a
space. Freaking facility, a space that is non-porous, that has adequate heat, that, it can't be your house.
No, unless it's a separate space that has its own separate entrance and it can be contained and yeah.
Dude, I live in like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, like ranch style, like 1,100 square. That's not a thing. So I'm just saying. Anyway, that's my rant and rave.
I know.
It's so stupid. Like, just give me 3 days and I'll have this dog vaccinated, if not before.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I'm solving a problem for the community. I'm solving a problem for our law enforcement. I'm taking burden off of resources that are state funded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage you to talk with the Department of Ag and your elected officials and make sure
you better believe she has.
I talk to Preston on a very regular basis.
Make sure they're aware.
I know I'm on his caller ID. Do not answer. Do not answer. Like that Shopaholics
I'm on a couple of those.
Movie. Do not answer this call.
I'm on a few of those.
But we love the Department of Ag. We have a very good relationship with them. They've always been very helpful. They've worked with us. We've worked with them. We've helped them out. They've helped us out. It's been a very good working relationship, and they are incredibly, and I mean incredibly, understaffed.
Yes, I have a great deal of respect for Secretary Mike Nag in particular. He hired an assistant state veterinarian to deal specifically with companion animal issues and to help rewrite these rules. And I think that they are doing their level best with what they have. Mm-hmm. There are loopholes in the law that kind of keep them in a stuck spot a lot of times. And like you said, they are under-resourced. They don't have the staff to do what they need to do. That is something that we would love to see remedied. You know, they could use double the budget and double the number of inspectors, and I don't know that would solve the problem fully.
I mean, they've got eight inspectors for the entire state of Iowa.
But in the last couple of years, they had a lot of turnover from
a ton of turnover. You want to know why? Because the job sucks and it doesn't pay.
Well, that's
and I know that because they had an opening and I considered it, and I'm like, I couldn't do this. I would be in jail within the first week.
That I think though is an issue just with like the general philosophy of the government right now in the state. They don't want to have a bloated, expensive government, and so the people who are there are doing it, I think, for the right reasons that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just hit my microphone with my hand.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's probably not nearly as loud as my stomach.
Very good.
Oh my God, seriously. Eat a
Is that what you're looking at him for? He's so hungry.
You can't hear it?
No, I've got my
picking up on my mic. I can hear it through my headphone. Go eat a pretzel or something. Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Well,
okay, I'm done derailing your agenda.
And the rabies thing, I'll say this just really briefly, is that we as an organization have been advocating in recent years to expand the capabilities of veterinary technicians, licensed vet techs.
Oh my God, please.
A couple years ago, there was some rules that went into effect that allowed vet techs to do a little bit more in the state, but it's still completely under the direct supervision, more or less, of a vet. And so it's good. It's a good first step. But, we have a massive veterinarian shortage nationwide, not just in Iowa, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. And so we've got to do something to make sure that people can get care for their pets. And it's huge. It's huge.
And it's all supply and demand. Vet shortages with a vaccination that requires a vet ups the exam fee, ups the vaccination fee. I think to a general exam at my vet clinic is $83, and then all of the vaccinations on that is another $100.
Yeah.
And now they're requiring blood work before they do any vaccination. That's another $120. It's becoming unsustainable to own a pet.
It's incredibly expensive.
In a shelter and rescue in the middle of a shelter and rescue crisis. Yeah. Like, these things are not lining up.
Well, and I mean, if you think about, even if people have decent means, I mean, I know I am a very lucky and privileged person. I can afford to take my 3 dogs to the vet. I have 2 dogs that are on chronic medication. One of them is also on special medicated food. And so he's like our $6,000 a year dog.
Right.
I love him. I'm lucky to be able to do that. If an emergency case arises, and we had this recently, I was looking at driving 2.5 hours to Des Moines to maybe get an appointment. And luckily it all worked out and we were fine. But like, people are making heartbreaking decisions every single day. And I'm glad that in the Des Moines area, I know the ARL of Iowa just purchased a couple of vet clinics. And so hopefully that'll help with increasing people being able to get to the vet more. But it's a very real thing people are dealing with. 100%. 100%. And there are things that the state has tried to do in recent years. They've created some student loan forgiveness programs for veterinarians, but like, it needs a massive influx. We need a massive influx of veterinary medical professionals.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh man. Okay.
Okay, so that was like a real big rundown of like animal cruelty laws, Holly going off the rails.
What I do, that's what I do. I had to vent there for a second.
I know. Okay, well, am going to hijack a little bit because Preston put on his list of things we could talk about something that I am just get wildly fired up about, and it's breed specific legislation. And I just want to hear a little bit about kind of your take about what the history of what's been happening in the state, what's going to happen, like what you guys are doing and seeing day to day specific to Iowa.
Yeah. So when I started in this position in 2018, roughly 15, maybe 14% of the state towns and counties in the state had some sort of a breed ban or restrictions on certain types of dogs.
Yep.
There are communities that go a little bit further that even say if a dog has physical characteristics that might be considered physical characteristics of certain breeds, they are also banned.
Oh, Jesus.
I grew up in a town that had this. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Well, then they should pay for the DNA tests.
Well, we would just love to see them all these bans go away. And so fast forward to today, it's less than 8% of Iowa communities that have breed bans or restrictions at all. The largest city that has a restriction is Des Moines. They have a number of dogs you can own if they're a certain breed. And then the largest community that has a full-out ban is Council Bluffs, Iowa. Interestingly, the most vocal proponent of keeping the breed ban in Council Bluffs was the longtime mayor, and he was just voted out in the last election. The new mayor...
Get out of here.
Yeah, no. The new mayor
Au revoir.
campaigned, at least in part, as part of her campaign, said she wanted to end the breed ban. There's another city council member there who was also voted in. He campaigned on wanting to end the breed ban. And so I've been working really closely with the shelter there and with advocates there for years, trying to get anything to stick. But the mayor loved the breed ban. He thought it was great. I think we're going to see a lot of movement there locally. So in 2023, the state legislature considered a bill that would have overturned all breed bans. It passed the House. And then on the last day of session in the Senate, it was eligible for debate, and it just didn't get called up. They pulled it at the last minute. I don't fully know why. I think that there were just disagreements in the Senate between different senators about what should or should not happen. The most frustrating part of that work is that Senator Chris Knoyer, she was a state senator at the time, was the state senator pushing to end breed bans. She is now the lieutenant governor. She was appointed lieutenant governor last year when our former lieutenant governor resigned. And so she now can't pass laws.
No.
And so we really lost the key person in the Senate. It's good that she's in the position she's in because we have a friend who can talk to the executive level, talk to the governor about these issues, but she can't write a bill.
Right.
So that topic, unfortunately, I think is stuck for the year. I don't know that we're going to see any proposals in either chamber of the legislature to move that forward, but it's something that we're working on locally and we'll continue to push at the state level too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that the percentage of like actual towns themselves that have this is actually going down over time. But, I follow along with a lot of people nationwide and actually even like I think Canada has a specific
Parts of Canada
that like if you have a specific type of dog, if you want to take it on a walk, it has to have a full muzzle on, like a full metal basket muzzle.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me. But anyway, I just grew up around that, and I grew up around everyone saying specifically like these types of dogs, and you would list them off, and if you even so much as spoke of them, it was like lore that this was like you were gonna die. Like
I have a Chihuahua that's more aggressive than any pit bull I've ever encountered my entire life.
That's true.
And he's like 6 pounds.
Yeah. And for me, I look at this issue from the experts' point of view. So we look at veterinarians who've studied the issue. We look at people who have studied dog bites and dog bite fatalities, specifically those situations. And even in cases where one of these breeds were involved, when you dig down into these cases and determine why the bite took place, it's almost never because of something the dog did. It was a situation the dog was placed in, or it was a person that was brought into the dog's area and they're not comfortable. 101 things that could happen, and it's been studied scientifically. I'm not a scientist, but I can read a paper.
Yeah.
And it's just the data isn't there to show that breed bans work in any way. Working on the issue in Iowa, what I've seen is communities grow in terms of a more engaged citizenry when they get rid of these breed bans. The people who have pets that might be a banned breed, they go to the dog park. They go on walks. If they have licensing in their city, they get licensed.
Yeah.
They come out of the woodwork and they become actual responsible citizens.
Right.
That's really how you make a community safer.
Yeah.
And then you do things to actually look at things that they know on a city level they can do not to prohibit, but to prevent bites.
Right.
Leash laws.
Yes.
Huge. Just keep your dog on a leash.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's enforce a leash law versus saying like XYZ dogs aren't allowed here. Yeah.
I just can't imagine going. I mean, I live very rurally. I've never walked my dogs, let alone walked them on a leash. Like that's not part of my world. But I can't imagine living like where you live and taking my dogs for a walk without a leash.
Right.
No.
Like I can't imagine just walking down a sidewalk on a busy street without having control over my dogs. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Second thing, how does the backyard breeding, the non-licensing breeding, crossbreeding, inbreeding play into that aggressive nature,
If we're not breeding for the personification of the breed, but maybe more so for what we want it to look like, right? And we're not thinking about like those personality traits and that kind of thing. I mean, we're seeing, you heard the animal control officer here say that she had to euthanize her French bulldog because it was aggressive. And I'm telling you, I've seen more aggressive French bulldogs than anything in the last years. And it's not because they're a bad dog. I love them and they're beautiful.
It's
but it's because we're breeding them to be bulkier and fatter heads and the different fur and all this kind of stuff, but we're not paying attention to the temperament of the dog.
Well, yeah, and I mean when you're cranking dogs out in that quickest succession, not only can you have behavioral issues, you can have these genetic issues that pop up later. Yes. I mean, the poor French bulldogs, they can't breathe.
Right.
But you look at breeds like German Shepherds and like what has been done to them with some of the breed standards.
Their hips and everything,
their backs and their hips are destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at pugs. There are countries that are banning breeding of pugs because they can't breathe. They're not what this original breed standard was. And so responsible breeding, I think, does require genetic testing and temperament testing. And you have to raise these animals in a way that you're going to be responsible and send them out into the community in the same way that I think shelters and rescues try their level best to learn everything they can and set these animals up for success. Unfortunately, when you have folks that are really only focused on the dollar signs, the bottom line, they just want animals in and out as fast as they can.
And so then when you're talking about policy and registered breeders, so commercial breeders that have licenses with IDALs, with the Iowa Department of Ag, there is no oversight to their breeding operations.
No.
And should there be?
So there's some,
is that,
right?
Well,
not like
as far as requirements go, I'm saying as far as genetics, like what is that a policy? Like, where do you draw the line on where it's your business and where it's not your business?
Right.
It's really
like,
hard.
It's your business because it affects the society that you're in. Because if you are inline breeding, back breeding, all of that, you're creating a hazard to your community.
Potentially.
But, I mean, our inspectors can't even cover what they got. Like, how do you expect them to have some sort of freaking genetic... like, what's your genetic plan here? Where's all your documentation on your dame and your sire? And, like, I mean... And is there any cross line, like...
Well, I don't think any of that is like realistically enforceable in our lifetimes, but I think that there's things that can happen on a larger scale so that our society has like a general expectation of quality for if you're going to purchase a dog, we
talked about that on the last podcast. Yeah. So the general population, that was me in that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know breed standards. I don't know what the breed standard is for a French bulldog.
And I think
when I see a French bulldog on a movie, it's like, oh, that's a really cute dog. I want that dog. And I'm looking up French bulldogs for sale on Facebook, and I come across this breeder that's 20 miles from me, and they have French bulldogs for $2,500 a piece. It was like, oh yeah, that's great. I want one. I'm going to go buy it. And now I have this genetic disaster that's going to eat the face off of
my
the
toddler.
Baby neighbor that I have.
And I think the breed standard is less important than making sure that if you're going to a breeder, you can see the parents and see how they're raised, and you can ask them questions like, how do you select the parents? How are you pairing genetics? Like, walk me through it, because not every breeder is going to do thousands of dollars genetic testing, but if they're putting some thought into it and like not just throwing animals together, I think you can probably find something that's at least halfway okay.
A very valid point. So as a consumer and as someone that cares about animals and things like that, we are not going to see everything be perfect. It's just never going to happen. It's fine. But what can we do to like talk to our neighbors about like, hey, you're thinking about getting a puppy? Like, there's a few options here for you, right? Like, you can rescue or you can ask these sorts of questions when you're going to actually purchase a dog that you're, making a valid choice and what have you. But anyways.
I think it's just about, helping people understand that you can make more informed decisions. I have a good friend who's a neighbor, and unfortunately a few months ago they lost one of their dogs, and they're starting to look for a new puppy. And they reached out to me because they know what I do. I said, what do I look for? How do I even begin? And then they sent me a list of a bunch of things that they wanted. And I said, you are not going to find that at a reputable breeder. I understand you've gotten on Instagram or TikTok and found a real cute mixed puppy somewhere, but like, don't go get that puppy in Virginia. I promise. You're not going to find a good place. I think it's just about visiting these places and finding someone that you can trust. And I think it's the same thing with shelters and rescues. I think you should visit and see where the animals are held and see what the animal's going to be like with you interacting. And it's going to change when you get home. But I think most people have a pretty good intuition in them. And if you're going to meet someone,
humanity a lot of faith.
You have to have hope. You have to have hope.
Jesus.
But like if you're going to meet a breeder and they say, I'm going to meet you at the Walmart.
Yeah. No.
Like, come on.
That's
man.
how I got into this, by the way.
Yeah. You've got to be able to see the place.
I met that woman in the Coralville Mall parking lot when I got Stella. That was my first dog.
Yep.
Come to find out, she was a puppy mill dog.
My first 2 dogs were puppy mill dogs. I had no idea.
And I didn't know nothing about rescues or shelters or breeders or puppy mills.
And now look at you.
And now look at me.
Now look at you.
I went down the rabbit hole hard, deep. So, that being said, there you go. I think, at a high school level, you see them going on little field trips, doing this and doing that and being exposed. I feel like they community service, they should have like, go to your local Humane Society, see how a shelter works, see what goes into that, see the dogs in kennels, be what's the word? Be impassioned by these animals like you were when you were that age.
Yeah. I mean, just get engaged.
Because if you don't know, you don't know. I mean, I didn't. I was buying a dog off of Craigslist at 22 years old. Like,
yeah.
I should have known better. I should have known better.
I did it too. We didn't know. So that's why we're here talking about this.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a few other like topics that I think that we may have a little time to deep dive into, but I kind of am just, I don't know that we really said, like, super curious. When you like go to work in the morning, like what's your day like? Like, what are you doing?
Day in the life.
Yeah.
Well, it is different every single day. And so, this time of year, I'm going to Des Moines a lot, going to the Iowa Capitol, talking to legislators, going to committee hearings, and you go and you read a statement. You say, I like this bill. I don't like this bill. Please pass it. Please don't. But
where is, like, can I get a visual? Like,
yeah,
where is it?
I would
like,
love
are you
to
like
describe
in front of everybody in the big room?
It is so less glamorous than you would think. And so when you see like congressional testimony or legislative testimony on TV and in movies, here in Iowa, we do it. I don't know. I guess I would almost call it
like in a closet.
Almost. And so you go literally into a room, and there is a table, and there are 3 members of the legislature there. There's 2 in the majority, 1 in the minority. And they say, this is the bill we're here to consider.
Situation.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
And you go and you literally will walk into a room, and those 3 legislators will be sitting at that table.
It's a parole hearing.
And you go, and
I've never been.
A lot of these hearings, you don't even sit down. You huddle around the table.
There's no chair.
No.
That's
and
intentional.
They go around and they say, who are you? What do you think? You say, hi, my name is Preston Moore. I'm with Humane World for Animals. We're here to support this legislation. Here's 1 or 2 reasons why. Thank you. That's it. And that's the only opportunity for the public to weigh in.
Is there a time limit?
30 seconds most times.
Stop.
Yeah. Maybe you get a couple minutes.
Oh, you wouldn't make it, Holly.
Oh, I would never. I would never. Listen here,
sometimes you don't even get in.
No. Right? I mean, I went to a committee hearing last week, and they said at the beginning, we have 15 minutes for this. They went halfway around the room and said, well, we're out of time, so we're going to vote now. And they passed it out of committee. I don't know what those people on the other side of the room were going to say. I have no idea. Maybe they liked it. Maybe they didn't. They didn't get a chance, and now there is no chance. That's the only opportunity for the public to weigh in, is during subcommittee. You get a couple minutes, maybe.
And you got to be first in line.
And you got to be ready.
God.
You got to be ready. And so
I can do this.
So that really leads into like what is the day-to-day most other days is I spend almost every other day year-round talking to those people. Making sure they know what I think, making sure they know what we all think. Because then when I get there, I'm not starting from ground 1.
Do you ever like see people see you coming and they're like,
oh yeah.
Not him again.
Interestingly, in the Iowa Capitol, there's 1 men's room for the public, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of just loiter in the basement, and everyone's got to go to the bathroom eventually. Otherwise, the Iowa
all legislators have digestive tract issues. They're just holding
bound
it in.
up.
And the Capitol is real informal. In addition to this sort of stand around a table and holler your bit subcommittee, procedure, if you want to talk to a legislature, you just go into the Capitol and you fill out a little piece of paper. Say, I want to talk to Senator or Representative, whomever, and you hand it to a guy. And that guy goes into the room. And he'll come back, and maybe who you want to talk to will come. But most times they'll say, he's not there. You say, okay, thank you.
He's not there. Where is he?
He's there usually.
In the bathroom?
He's there.
With you?
They're usually there. Yeah.
They just don't want to talk to you?
They're just not going to come
Oh, my
out.
God.
And it's not just to
I would
me.
submit 25 slips a day.
Yeah. And, sometimes they're in a committee meeting, or sometimes they have a meeting they got to go to and they don't have time, whatever. But sometimes they are there and they don't want to come out. That's why you have to be talking to these people year round. You can't.
Imagine?
Well, the biggest mistake that any legislature ever did was give me his cell phone number because I have just blown him up.
But can you imagine being that
regular.
legislature of the number of requests that you get on a weekly basis, on a session basis?
It's many.
Again, not trying to defend them, but
no, I mean
it's probably just decision fatigue.
How long is the session?
So this year it's January through, I want to say, like April 20th.
What happens from May until January?
So in Iowa, we have what's called a part-time legislature. So they have other jobs.
Right.
And then part of the year they go to the Capitol.
Other jobs like
teachers or farmers or engineers or whatever.
Okay.
I always found that fascinating as a kid. The local county rep had an apartment in Des Moines.
Yep.
And he'd be there, Monday night through Thursday night, and then come home and farm and be at church and do all this.
Maybe have a forum at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh, how much do you make if you're a senator?
$25,000 a year.
Nothing.
I can live on that.
It's no money. And so, they are busy. And so throughout the rest of the year, a lot of them do meet with constituents. They meet with the different departments of the state, and they try to figure out how to keep things moving forward for the next year. But there are other states where, they meet continuously for 2 years, and it's a completely different system. My colleague in Michigan is going every week to the legislature for committee hearings. We do most of our work in a much shorter timeline. So not only do we finish now this year, in April, but like February 20th or about that date, that's the first what's called a funnel deadline in Iowa. If a bill doesn't pass a full committee in one of the chambers by that date, it's dead. And so then you have to start again next year.
Oh my gosh.
So you really have a handful of weeks at the beginning of session to get something moving. Then you have a handful of weeks to keep it alive. Maybe if you're lucky and you work really hard and everyone's okay with it, it gets going. But it's a pretty short timeline. You've got to do all of this advanced work. So by the time you get to January,
you're ready to rock and roll.
If you haven't already
Oh my God.
got the people
Prepped.
you want to file the bills and convince them it's a good idea and educated them on so they can speak on it, you're screwed. You're just going to go to the Capitol and look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want to do.
No, nobody wants that.
No.
Oh my gosh.
So are you at the Capitol January through April, and then what?
Yeah, and then it just depends on the day. So sometimes I'll go and I'll have meetings, kind of town hall style meetings, like I was talking about earlier, in different communities. Or I'll go and I'll meet with shelters, or I'll go throughout the state and meet with legislators in their districts.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I, go some of these cruelty cases that I've talked about. It just changes week to week. It's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of reading all 2,000 bills or whatever that gets filed and finding potential opportunities to insert a comment that might maybe help an animal find an opening. It's just a lot of talking to people and making sure that I kind of know what's going on in animal world so that legislators also know.
Iowa is still better than North Dakota.
Yeah, the Dakotas are rough.
Oh.
Every other year.
Everything's bad in the Dakotas.
Every other year. So there's a whole year of nothing.
I think South Dakota is interesting too, because South Dakota, I think, meets for 30 days and every bill gets a hearing. In Iowa, a lot of bills get filed and they don't even get a hearing. And so a lot of times
then they just die.
They die. And so, a lot of times what happens is somebody will go to their legislator and say, I've got an idea for a bill. The legislator will say, yeah, sure, I'll file it for you. But there's no real intention of moving.
Right. It's just
South Dakota for odd number years gets 40 days.
Yeah.
Even number year gets 35.
What?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And so, like, you got to get it done.
Why don't they just make it longer? I don't get it.
Well, because they believe in small government or something.
They're getting her done.
They kind of.
Okay, so it is currently January 26th. This podcast is going to air. I think it's going to air this Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be
the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a very large group of Oh My Dog Rescue people.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a huge community. We've got our Mutt Mafia volunteer group. What is in?
Yeah. What are you most excited
in play
about?
now?
What is in play now?
Explain that to us, and if our listeners or if the mafia wants
The
to
constituents of all of these people, you're going to
agrees
give
with
numbers
it
to.
and wants to help support it, how can they do that?
Great question. So there's two things that I would love people who are listening to do. The first is to Google the words Iowa, find my lawmaker. And if you do that, you will find a state of Iowa website where you can type in your address and you can find your state representative and your state senator.
Okay.
And if you do that, I would love it, and the animals would love it, if you could send them one email for your state representative. Send them an email and say, there is a bill on the table that would make the crime of animal torture an automatic felony in Iowa. Animal torture in our code is the most extreme forms of animal cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Iowa is the only state that treats that crime as a misdemeanor.
Oh my.
Every other state treats it as a felony. So if you could email your House of Representative member and ask them to support House File 557.
Mm-hmm.
It was introduced by Representative Samantha Fett and Representative Carter Nordman in the House. In the state Senate, there is a bill that is identical to that. And so you can email your state senator and ask them to support Senate File 2099.
Okay.
And that was sponsored by Senator Lynn Evans, who is an assistant majority leader of the Republican Party in the Senate. Those two bills are the same bill. It just has a separate number because it's in different chambers.
Mm-hmm.
That is, without a doubt, the number one priority for me this
That's
session.
crazy that not a thing. So yes.
Say it one more time. It's the
House File 557.
House File 557, Samantha Fett and
Carter
Norman. Senate File 2099. They are exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Okay. And what is it again?
Yep.
To make the...
So Iowa law has a couple different levels of animal cruelty crimes. There's animal abandonment, animal neglect, animal abuse, and what's called animal torture. They're basically what you think they are.
Right.
You know, as described. Animal abuse is like you hit your dog, kick your dog, throw something at your dog, cause an injury and illness. Animal torture is literally torture. It's severe, prolonged, intentional torture. What this bill does is update the definition to really clarify what it is. It's things like crushing and burning or drowning an animal. Really severe acts of cruelty. And it makes it an automatic felony charge. Right now in Iowa code, you could do one of those things to an animal. You would receive a misdemeanor charge. If you did it again, you can get a felony charge. Iowa is the only state that treats the crime like a misdemeanor. Every other state treats it like a felony. Even at the federal level, if you have a federal felony animal cruelty case, it's felony charge, but not in Iowa. So we want to see that changed.
Yeah, for sure. That's a no-brainer.
Yep. And then the other big thing you can do is if you care about that issue or literally any other animal issue, we have a big event coming up at the Iowa State House on March 26th. We're bringing back an in-person humane lobby day. So that means if you care about treating animals humanely, you want to see the world be a little nicer to animals, this is your opportunity to come to the State House and actually meet with your lawmaker. Come and talk to them about what's important to you. Tell them why you want to see these things change. It's just a great opportunity to kind of gather with folks who think similarly to you, and you guys are going to be there.
We are going to be there. So you can come meet Preston. You can meet Holly and I, and we'll talk all things dog and hopefully be talking to some people that can make big changes.
That's right.
Yeah. So for our listeners in Boone County, your senator is Jesse Green. Your representative is Chad Bain. In Polk County, which is
me,
Des Moines, where Kara's at, your senator is Matt Blake, and your representative is Larry McBurney. And you can find their email addresses and phone numbers on legis legis.iowa.gov.
Yeah, literally, if you just Google like "find Iowa. My lawmaker Iowa," it'll pull that up.
Yep.
I have found that sometimes if people type that address, if they don't put
like
HTTPS, it breaks.
Right.
It is an old website.
It is.
It is an old website.
So we'll post this in the show notes.
Yes, we'll put the link and everything so you can click right to it. But
definitely, I mean, I don't understand why this is even
why
this isn't just an automatic. Is there a reason why we're the only state in the United States that doesn't view this as a felony? Why is that?
Yeah, there is. So in 2019, 2020, when the legislature was considering the cruelty code updates that I told you about earlier, this was in there. And the House passed it originally to make this crime a felony. Unfortunately, there were a small number of state senators. I'm not going to give their name because they know who they are and their constituents know who they are.
I think we've talked
Are
about
they anybody
who they
that
are.
I talked about 2 minutes ago?
No.
Okay.
No.
They apparently had a meltdown that a parent with a toddler would have some really genuine concerns about. And they really didn't want to see it go through. They believed that the animal people didn't need a win, is really my understanding of it. And so it got stripped out of the Senate at the last minute. It was either that or no bill at all. And like I mentioned to you earlier, there were some really important things that needed to be updated there. So we pushed forward with it. What's interesting about this year is that since we passed those cruelty code updates in Iowa, the state of Mississippi, which was the only other state that didn't have a felony animal cruelty law, passed a felony animal cruelty law. And then that same year, President Trump signed a federal felony animal cruelty law. And so the language that the Iowa legislature is considering is copy-paste President Trump's law. That's the definition. That's the penalty. It's been passed nationwide. We're the only place without this law. And so I think this is the time to do it.
There shouldn't be any reason why it wouldn't pass then.
Right?
Tell your friends.
Doesn't the Republicans have the majority?
They do.
Well,
There we go.
So it's done.
They like that. No, we still got to talk about it though.
Yes, no, of course. So if somebody was to send an email to their senator or their representative, what should they say? Subject line, email.
Subject line, I think, just really simple. Make animal torture an automatic felony. Have that be your subject line. And then in the body of the email, reference those specific bills and tell them why it is important to you. I beg of people, please do not just copy paste what someone else has written. There are all kinds of legislative contact forms that are out there. I try not to use them because legislators
they all just go into
hate getting 100 emails that all say the same thing. I don't want 100 emails that say the same thing. I want to hear from people. And so if you email them, talk about your pet. Talk about cruelty cases you've seen. Talk about how important animals are to you. Talk about how they're your family members. And talk about how making sure these crimes are charged appropriately is keeping your community safe. It's giving a label to a violent crime that is appropriate. It really does make a difference for community safety. Law enforcement is supportive of this measure. The Sheriff's and Deputies Association, the Police Chiefs Association support the bill. The Veterinarian Association here in Iowa supports the bill. There's nobody who opposes the bill. I think it's time to get it going.
Yeah, for heaven's sake. Good Lord.
For dog's sake.
For dog's sake, that's right.
Oh, my dog.
Oh, my dog.
Let's get this done.
Good gravy.
Well, I've got my email teed up for sure.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
It's just another email from me, but I'm probably on. I know I'm on a list.
It's the best place to be.
You can have a bunch of emails. It's like Wanda@gmail.com.
Not the only list
Cynthia
that I'm on.
@gmail.com.
Right.
Only send it from your real email. They do only want to hear from real people. Don't make fake emails.
I saw
Yes,
a meme today that said, "Oh, how did you get your whole name as your email address?" It's like I was here
old.
when the internet was invented.
Yeah,
okay?
listen.
I'm still on Hotmail.
I was on the
and
Oregon Trail.
Right.
and I'm never giving it up.
No.
There's those people I see with @AOL.com. I'm like,
I
Hi,
remember
buddy.
You're really
that.
dating yourself there.
yeah. I'm like, I wonder if they have 10,000 emails in their inbox. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's been
I'm still a Hotmail
Forever.
girly.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I switched to Gmail like really early on, so I have like my
No.
maiden name and my married name both in the same inbox.
I
and
use
it
Gmail
confuses
for
people.
work stuff only.
Some jerk took my Gmail name
Son of a peach.
a long time ago. And I like made an acronym and I don't like it. But I've had it for so long.
Not as good.
No.
Well, I actually, when my daughter was small, do this right now for your daughter.
Mhm.
I got her the Gmail address for her name.
Yeah.
So she's got it. And then I handed it over to her
Yeah.
when she was old enough to take care of her own inbox.
We don't have that, but we did for my daughter do I think something pretty neat. So when she was born, we reached out to people who I find inspiring just in general, or people who are in leadership positions around the country and the world, and I just asked them to send her a letter saying "Welcome to Earth," right? Like welcome.
Right.
Here's a nice little word. And one of the coolest things that I got back was a handwritten note from Jane Goodall. This
Oh
was
my
before she passed
Shut
away.
up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can't read the whole letter without crying because it's written to my daughter and
yeah.
and I'm a big softie anyway, but there's a line in there that she said very frequently in public, and so people if they follow Jane Goodall at all, they've heard it, but there's a line that says, there are some people who, whether they want to or not, are making the world a not as good place, and you have a responsibility to make a difference every day, and you will make a difference every day. You just have to decide if you're going to make a good difference. And, I believe in that very strongly. And I think that, I'm almost 40. I'm not going to be around for forever. And very little that I do today is going to impact my life. But I know that my daughter has to live here when I'm gone. And so that's why I think at the end of the day, I advocate for better policies and better laws for animals, because I think that that's what makes the world a better place, or will make the world a better place.
Right.
And that's just kind of how I see myself kind of fitting into this little funny little legislative
Our
world.
weird little nook. Well, even you just going down that timeline of really the big change that's happened in Iowa, it's been recent, and so, I mean, and thinking about the history of the Humane Society, right? The history of women having any sort of rights at all is so recent.
It's not that long
It's
ago.
not that long ago.
Yeah, that when women couldn't even get checking accounts.
Yeah, credit cards, nothing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And so to think about that, my relatives who are still lived where that wasn't the case, makes me think about, where we're living right now, where some of those things aren't the case. But if we keep talking about it and educating about it, then it will be.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I at least want to be able to set up the future generation to have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one of them someday will point at, some history book or like a little video archive footage of some guy named Preston talking about how we needed to do something about puppy mills. And they'll be like, hey, this guy, maybe he wasn't so wrong. Maybe we should listen to this guy. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think so. The internet's forever,
It is. For now.
Well, this has been absolutely incredible. And I know that we are not ready to let Preston leave the studio.
You are being held captive.
Yeah. And he said,
is there policy around that?
I can stay till 11:30.
We're not going to keep you that long, but we are going to wrap up for now, and then I think we're going to cut. And I know that a lot of people that follow along with Oh My Dog understand how passionate Holly and I are about doing what we can to minimize what's happening in puppy mills in the state. And so Preston has a lot to talk with us about that. So we're going to make that into like a little offshoot of this episode. So for now, we're going to wrap this up. And then next week, you got to come back.
Yeah, join us next week about puppy mills.
Yes. But remember to reach out to your state representative about this specific felony animal torture as kind of our focus on what we want to have happen in 2026 in our with our lawmakers.
Yes.
And then you can come out and see us on March 26th for the Humane Lobby Day at the Capitol.
12 to 2:30. So again, Google Iowa, find my lawmaker, and then you'll put in your address and then send them a quick email about supporting Senate File 2099 and House File 557.
Yes.
We'll put that on the show notes. Until then,
we'll figure it out.
Oh my dog.
What I mean when I see, what I see, what I feel, when I dream, when I be, I'm a freak. What up? Oh, what up? Everybody look at me when I'm free, when I feel what I see, when I do it, I'm a freak. What up? Oh, what up? Say what we got, it's hot to spot, give up the drop, see what we got, do what, we got to go, the body flow, too hot to show, the front row, we won't stop.